The 21st century has been phased by one continent's rise due to its ability to become the next global contender, a continent known as Asia. Giving birth to major economies left and right, it has also brought in several ultra-rich people, also known as crazy rich Asians. These people had sought after the most lavish destinations and products globally. Behind all of their wealth, there is one country that houses their money, real estate, and investments. An island nation known as Singapore. One of the world's smallest countries, yet the most sought-after destination for rich Asians. In the first 8 months of 2022 alone, nearly 425 luxury units from its real estate sector were sold to foreign buyers. China, arguably the wealthiest of all the continent, swooped in to purchase 84 units, only to be followed by the Americans at 34 units and Indonesians at 28 units. The issue here is not even about how many units are sold to foreign buyers, but rather how valuable those units are. One thing that people in Singapore know is that not subsidized homes are extremely expensive. Some cost from tens to even hundreds of millions of dollars. And the thing is, this luxury sold is entitled to foreign buyers only. This does not take into account those billionaires who have already settled in Singapore. Furthermore, it is even known that the island nation is the base of operations for almost everything. This year, the second wealthiest man in Asia, known as Mukesh Ambani from India, has stated that he is planning to open a family office in Singapore. This will enable Ambani and 700 other individuals who established a family office in 2021 to gain access to world-class asset management and ensure generational wealth lives on, along with some tax purposes as well. The continuous entrance of Ambani and other billionaires such as Ray Dalio, Sergey Brin, and Nicky Oppenheimer is undoubtedly a signal to the world that Singapore is the house of rich people. One question looms, however: how did Singapore become the house of rich people? Why don't they invest in, say, the United States, arguably the world's largest economy, or even other European financial hubs? Well, these questions will be answered throughout the video. Before we get there though, we must first take a look at the history of Singapore and the policies that support the entrance of rich people. First of all, the largest reason why Singapore is where it is today is because of its sole establishment as one of the world's financial hubs. This means that their banking system is one of the most sought after in the world due to its capabilities to ensure stability in the entire financial system. As the rise in wealth has steadily increased over the past few years, the wealth of some people has become too much, and when they have an excess of money, they often find options where they can store their wealth in a proper place. A place that is unshrouded with corruption, and a place that has a favorable taxation system. Singapore, on the other hand, had all of these in place, and not only that, there was no other country in Asia like Singapore. One cannot turn to the Middle East due to its instability, nor can one turn to Hong Kong due to potential issues with the mainland. The only option for rich Asians was either to turn to Western banks or a few select countries, such as Singapore. But since Singapore was the nearest country, it was already the best choice. Why, after all, would one want to go all across Europe or Switzerland or some other hidden offshore country when Singapore, just a few hours away by plane from China or Indonesia or the Philippines, is already there? On top of all of these, Singapore does not even tax interest gained by foreign deposits, hence further pushing these wealthy Asians to deposit more money in Singaporean banks. Eventually, as decades go by, they all add up and make Singapore the house of the wealthy. As of the latest data, Singapore's financial system holds more than $1 trillion worth of total foreign depositories, which is incredibly insane since it is even larger than the economic output of many major countries. Many reports have even pointed out that Singapore's stance as a global financial hub is still at the very beginning, as the Southeast Asian region is expected to grow its millionaire and billionaire list in the coming future. However, what we have noted so far is Singapore's banking industry housing the rich's money. What we have yet to see is the underlying impacts of all these. One of the most important factors in Singapore today, as we mentioned earlier, is its real estate. The real estate market of Singapore is considered a lavish lifestyle due to its extravagant costs. For individuals seeking to buy a non-subsidized house, they would expect to pay anywhere from $1 million to more than $100 million. But while real estate may be considered a quote-unquote expensive choice, there is one reason why rich Asians still do it. It comes from the word value. Like any investments made, especially from the perspective of rich people, they only seek one choice above all, whether something really is of value. Real estate, on the other hand, especially in Singapore, has a huge future market value. Or rather, in simpler terms, the value of real estate in Singapore is always expected to rise in the future, at a rate that even trumps that of other countries. This is why foreigners love Singapore, because when an individual makes investments in any industry, whether it be housing or even the Singaporean stock exchange, they are sure that due to Singapore's stance, they are buying something valuable and can be more valuable in the future. After all, why do you think that some Chinese individuals buy many houses in Singapore? Do they even need to have many houses to live in? Is it for vanity? No, of course not, although you can probably argue the statement and maybe vanity might be it, but one of the largest reasons why they do it is because they know it will eventually rise in value. And value is rarely seen in Southeast Asia, especially a value that can match that of Singapore. That is why billionaires from Malaysia to Indonesia are even either moving to Singapore or using much of their wealth to buy something in Singapore and not back to their home country. Because eventually, as Indonesia or Malaysia's economy rises, their population hits an extreme level, not only are they going to benefit their own country, but Singapore will still be the it. Singapore will still be the house of corporations and financial institutions as a maritime hub, and that will not change. Because Singapore will be the central hub of Southeast Asia and will be the beneficiary of the region's economic growth, with Singapore's land being so scarce, it should even imply that these family offices, these apartments bought, and the change of nationality should not even be deemed as vanity, but rather as a way for them to position themselves in the center of the region's economic growth. But that's not all there is to it. Real estate, family businesses, or a regional headquarters is not just the end of it all. The other factor is even Singapore's government. You see, if an individual has enough money, which according to Singapore, having $2.5 million as a minimum is enough for one to become a permanent resident in the island nation, or have a business that has a turnover of at least $50 million. If you have either of the two, you can become a permanent resident in the country. Simply, one can easily escape their life back in their homeland in favor of that luxury style of living that only Singapore can offer around Asia. And this small amount is not even a lot when we talk about the 0.1% of Asians. And that's not just it. Singapore's policies do a lot more when it comes to attracting wealth. The latest report by Henley Global Citizen Report said that they are the world's largest destination in attracting wealth, just behind the United Arab Emirates and Australia. The same report is projecting that more than 2,800 high net worth individuals had flowed into Singapore by the end of 2022. This is partly due to the escape of rich people from China and Hong Kong, but also as they still stand as the hub for rich Asians. Due to these relaxed rules to lure in the rich, Singapore's total high net worth individuals has risen to 8,040 multimillionaires, 336 centimillionaires, and 26 billionaires. A figure that is even higher than that of Tokyo, which is regarded as one of the world's richest destinations, but only has 7,350 multimillionaires, 263 centimillionaires, and 12 billionaires. Finally, the last bit of question in everything. Are these bad? Are billionaires from around the world moving their money from their homeland to Singapore bad for their motherland? Well, you see, there is one reason why most billionaires, or at least the rich, open a family business in Singapore. And well, the reason does not always have to be for tax purposes, but rather the main purpose of a family office is to ensure that the individual's wealth goes on for generations. Asset management, in other words, is a big business in Singapore. If someone with $1 million opens a family office in Singapore and does the necessary work, the individual could expect that their net worth would grow and keep on growing as the times come, ensuring the livelihood of their offspring's offspring, and one day be sure that it won't be depleted. This is an option that is arguably unseen around Asia today. What country is there around Asia that holds the most purpose in terms of security, in terms of investment levels, and in terms of value? But anyway, let us know what other country that is. Thanks for watching.